Fixing a toilet that keeps running. This is DIY plumbing. And why is it DIY plumbing? Because this is something most homeowners can do themselves. So homeowners, this is a great way for you to save money. Plumbers, this is a great thing for you to learn because this is where you can make good money. You come in and take care of your customers right, do the right thing, teach them while you do it, and you can be their plumber for life. And that's what this is all about. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the right way to rebuild a toilet completely. That is how you stop a toilet from running. Now, stay till the end because I'm gonna show you the one big tip that makes this a great thing to know. So what we're gonna do first, I'm gonna assume you've already reached down under here and shut off the water. You have already disconnected the supply line. You've already drained the tank down. Now, you know to do that, you're just gonna flush it, pull the flapper up, that's gonna get the water down to here. Then you're gonna take your sponge, wet vac, whatever you've got, you're gonna clean out the insides of it so it's nice and dry. Me, I still like to lay a towel down right here. Here's why. I made the mistake one time, I didn't have a wet vac with me, so what I did is literally just undid everything and I thought I could just pull the old one out and slam the new one in, never make a mess. Well, I did. It actually ran out and it set up real high on the flush valve. So when I went to pull it out, the other one wouldn't go back in and I had a ton of water all over the bathroom floor. So what I do now is I make sure I either use that sponge, rag, anything I've got, or if I've got one of those little wet vacs, I'll just reach in there and vacuum it out dry. So let's assume everything is dry and we've pulled the top off. So as you know, you've got the fill valve over here. When this goes down, that allows the water to fill. When it comes up, that's what shuts it off. And the water level is always below the overflow. This is your flush valve. The reason being, when you flush your toilet, when you raise the handle up, it pulls up your flapper and lets the water go down, that lets it go down into the bowl. Now, the third part is the flapper. That is the easiest part to change. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and pull it off first. And I always tell people, look at the ring right here. See if the chlorine and chloramine have started messing up the rubber. And also feel the lip on the inside of the flush valve. That may be where water's leaking. If you see water going down into your bowl, it's probably coming through here. If you're just hearing your fill valve kick off all the time, it could be because it's losing water, or it could just be a bad fill valve. So now we've pulled out the flapper. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out the fill valve. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my channel locks and loosen the nut right here on the bottom. Now, I'm taking this nut off. I'm disconnecting the fill tube, and what I'm doing is pulling it up out. So this is what I showed you a while ago. The fill valve is really cool because it is a valve that shuts off the water. So you've got complete water pressure here all the time, but when this comes up to a certain level and shuts it off, there's a valve up in here that shuts it off. So this is a very simple change out. Now, I've got the toilet with the back end open just so I can show you from the inside. But guys, this is something any homeowner and any plumber can really do relatively quickly. One thing I will tell you is you're reaching in from the top, be very careful. Because I've gone in to just change a fill valve before, and actually I broke off this piece right down at the bottom on the flush valve. I had to change out this whole piece, and as you're gonna see in a minute, that takes a little bit longer. So right now, we could change out the fill valve and the flapper very easy. This is what I, as a plumber, call a minor rebuild. This changes everything inside except for this piece. The reason being, that one's harder to get out. So what we're gonna do, now remember, you've already got it completely drained out. What we're gonna do is put a crescent wrench right here on the bottom, and we're gonna undo these bolts. Now the tank to bowl bolts come out very easy, but remember, you've got a washer up top to make sure that water doesn't leak down through it. If you've got a leak between your tank and bowl, that could be part of the reason. And once you get it loose enough, you can just undo it by hand. Now, here's the fun part. This is really the piece that we're changing. You've got a gasket here to seal it off, and then you have a very large nut holding the flush valve onto the tank. So now we're going to take off the flush valve. Now, I've got my big channel locks because we've got a big plastic nut here. Now, you may not have these as a homeowner, but this is something you may want to invest in to have around the house. As a plumber, you definitely need a big set of channel locks like that, because every now and then you're going to run into a big nut that you need to get off, and that's about the best way to do it. I'd hate to be trying to do this with a big pipe wrench right now, so having these big channel locks around is great. Now, this is actually the flush valve. Now remember, I told you this is the edge that when this starts getting a nick in it or starts wearing out, water can leak through here real easy. Now, it's got a rubber seal down here on the bottom so that when it's in, it seals off. So we're going to go ahead and put it back in because I know this is a good one. But when it's time to put it back in, number one, you want to make sure that the length on it is the same as the one that you took out. That way you're not having to change everything else in there. You get it in, line it up, make sure your rubber's good. Nice and snug, but you don't have to be super tight on that. You want it tight enough that it's not going to move around, which I've got it there, and tight enough to pull that rubber down so it seals off really well on the bottom. Now, at this point, you can take your gasket and put it on and make sure it goes all the way up. This is what seals off the tank to the bowl. So when you flush the water, it doesn't come out and leak all the way around down here. So I'm really careful to always make sure that this goes all the way around the nut and it comes up on the flush valve as far as it can. That way, when I put it back in position, it lines up really well. Now, there are some tanks that have 3 holes. So if you're replacing the gasket and all that, you want to make sure you've got a new bolt set for everything. Now, I'm just taking this one apart and putting it back together, so I know I'm okay. But make sure that you look inside. And one thing I recommend is take a picture of the inside of your tank before you go get the parts or get online and order the parts. That way you know you're getting the right flush valve for your toilet. Now that we've got everything put together, we're going to actually mount the tank and bowl back together. So remember I told you, you've got your rubber washer up here. Now, as you see, this is still loose. So what you're going to do, get your crescent wrench where you want it, hold that nut still, and then tighten your screw from the inside. Now, what I like to do is look at the front edge and see if the tank is touching the bowl. It should, but it should just barely touch. You want to be extremely careful here because if you over tighten this, you're going to break the porcelain. So what I like to do is put one side in hand tight, then put the other side in hand tight, and then go back to that side and start snugging it down. Now when you look from the front, there's literally a lip on the front edge of the bowl, and that tank should set on it. That's what's going to keep it from wobbling. And that's why, as you see, this would not be very good. Now that we've got that put back together, we're going to take the fill valve and put it back in. Now the 2 things to remember, you want to make sure your adjustment lever is over to the side where you can get to it, adjust it, and not have any problems. You also want to make sure that you've got it all adjusted for the right height so that when it does cut off, it stays below the overflow valve. And everything looks good the way we've got it. The other thing to remember is make sure that the top of this sets up above here. You don't ever want the water to cover this up. So I like the height that we're at right there, so we can put it back together. Again, this is a plastic nut. You want to tighten it up, but you don't want to put it so tight that you break anything. Then we take our fill tube, put it back in position where the water sprays down inside the overflow. The last piece that we have is the flapper. And this is one that really needs to be changed out often. That can keep you from having a toilet that just runs continuously. Now guys, when you turn the water on, do a couple of things. Number one, make sure it's not leaking around the bottom. If you've taken off the flush valve, you could have a leak there and you don't want to either ruin your floor or one of your customers' floor. The other thing is, make sure that before you put the lid on, you turn the water on, let it fill up. You don't want it to come to the top of the overflow, and you want to make sure that this shuts off like it should. I normally flush these 3 or 4 times just to look at it to make sure it's doing everything it's supposed to do. And also, look around underneath. Is there any water there that shouldn't be? So guys, this is what the flush valve looks like new. And this looks different than the one that's in there. Now, the main thing is to make sure that the threads that go through the bowl are about the same size, because you want that nut to seal off and the rubber gasket to seal off. The main purpose of this is that when you pull the handle, it goes up and lets the water down so it'll flush it like it should. Remember, you want to make sure that this tube is about the same. So if it's too long, as you can see this one would be, you'd want to cut it off at the right length to make sure everything's good on this. Now this is the new fill valve, and this is the way it comes in different pieces, and these are also adjustable. So as you can see, this one's a little bit higher than the other one. So what I would do is raise that piece up and make it a little bit shorter, and make sure that I lock it back down. That way when I put it in, get it set at the right height that I want it, slide that retainer down and lock it. That way I know everything's good. Now, as long as this is the same height, everything here should be perfect and work fine. The things you're going to take apart here, you've got the rubber that goes right here to help seal it off, and you've got a cone washer in here in case your supply line needs a new cone washer at the bottom of the fill valve. You've also got your 2 retainer nuts. Guys, these are things that you're going to need to keep because you may need them on your toilet, but you've also got a new adapter to hold your tube right in the top of the overflow valve. And you've got a new tube to put on yours because the old ones sometimes get brittle and leak. This will help make sure that the water gets to where it needs to be. Guys, the last piece is the flapper. These you can get about anywhere. We custom ordered this one for this toilet to make sure that we had the right one, but they do have universal flappers out there. Some of them actually work very well. Just make sure that when you start working on your toilet, you've got all the parts there. Like I said earlier, take a picture of the inside to make sure you can order the right parts, and that'll make this job go a whole lot easier for you. Now guys, earlier I told you I had a tip. The thing is, make sure you get the right part number off the inside of your tank. Because what you can probably do is contact the manufacturer. A lot of these parts are guaranteed, so they'll either send you a new fill valve, a new flapper, a new flush valve, or whatever it is you need. But even if they're not free, you can at least order the right parts online, so when you go to rebuild your toilet, you know you've got the right parts with you. Now, if you've ever rebuilt one before with the wrong parts and it worked or it didn't, please do me a favor and leave a comment down below and let me know how that worked out for you. Guys, I hope you enjoy these videos and I hope you're learning something from them. I hope this helps you as a plumber become a better plumber, or as a homeowner helps you save money. I'm Roger Wakefield, Lead AP, the Expert Plumber, and I'll see you in the next video if you don't get flushed.